How's it going, my friends? Back with another video today. And I just wanted to do a quick video. I got a lot of questions from new people on my channel about different techniques and just things that they can use to enhance their photography and just create like connection and depth with their photos. This is something that obviously is a process to master. I mean, something like this does not come easily, and it takes many years of practice and honing your instincts when it comes to seeing situations. But I have a couple tips that I can share with you guys to kind of get those thoughts flowing and just kind of get you guys thinking about your subjects in different ways. I use these techniques a lot and in my photos, and really, if you're focused on what I'm going to teach you today, you can really start to slow things down in your photography and start to look for scenarios that are going to produce these results. So one thing I always tell people when they ask me, about composition and things that they should do to, increase their photography and just like make more of an impact with the images, is to clean your backgrounds, or to very intently focus on your backgrounds. Backgrounds, I feel like people do not talk about enough. They talk about the subject, what they're actually photographing, trying to get the most emotional images, or a lot of external things, or things that are going on specifically with the subject. But not a lot of people focus on one of the most important things, and that's what's going on behind the actual subjects. And once I started to focus in on this really took my photography to the next level. It really made a huge difference in my images and the way that they were presented. When you have subjects that are placed in front, and this obviously is not anything with art in general, but especially photography, is rules are made to be broken, in my opinion. There are certain things that I feel like you should learn before you start to break them. But if you're an unbelievable artist, the rules kind of just go out the window and you just go off instinct. But I feel like it's really good to learn certain things before you progress to the next level. So for me, what I like to do is when I find say I'm going to photograph a wedding and I show up for the getting ready portion. The first thing I do when I walk into a new room I know I'm going to be photographing in, I look at the room, what's going on. Where is the negative space? Where are the areas that have shapes that are interesting? Where are the mirrors? Where are the picture frames? What is going on the walls? Where are the lights coming in? I always assess the room that I'm going to be shooting at first, and then I can kind of take my subjects and place them in the interesting places, or at least try to, and work my angles, placing them in interesting places that are going to either clear out my backgrounds or make the backgrounds make sense with the person in them. So it goes into storytelling, it goes into isolation, and there's a few different examples that I'm going to show you that I really want you guys to think about, especially if you're doing weddings or doing people. If you're looking to create images that are, a good image, it grips you right when you look at it. And it translates right when you look at it. You don't have to do a lot of figuring out in order to get involved into the photo. It's sort of like just reaches out, grabs you, and then it's like, you don't have to understand exactly why you like it in the first place, but as soon as you see it, hey, I love that. So those are my favorite type of images, and those are the ones that always stand out. When I present my work to my clients or to other people, the ones that have the most the actual atmosphere and the composition it does not stray the eye away from the image and the story that I'm trying to tell with it. So let's jump into a couple images, guys, and I'm going to give you some examples. And I'm going to show you guys exactly what I was thinking as I was shooting these, and just a couple techniques that I use. Okay, so this is the first one right here. This was at a wedding. It was a big Catholic wedding, and it's one of my favorites from the ceremony. So as you guys can see, it's very simple, very minimalistic, and what you don't see is right outside the boundaries of these, the crop here, there was so much stuff. I mean, there was a big podium, a huge altar, a bunch of flowers everywhere. There was chairs. There was a bunch of stuff going on. It was a magnificent altar. It was really beautiful. But what I wanted to do is I wanted to show very minimalist, in a minimalist way. I wanted to get the point across and kind of tell a story about what was going on there. See, if you look at it, the people, obviously, the couple and the the priest in the background are very, very small compared to what your eye goes to right at first, which is this big crucifix here. Now, to me, what I was trying to convey here is the bigger message of what they're committing to here. They're before God. They're committing their life in a religious manner to this new life and this new ceremony for them. And it just basically shows a story of them committing themselves to the bigger picture. And I took out everything else. I just cut in very close and tightly, so it just focused on this dynamic story. It cleaned up that background, guys. You don't want a bunch of things trying to interfere with what you're trying to tell in the story. And I like things, and this is my style, but this is what I use to kind of just convey a message. As a photographer, you might like things differently, but this is just a tip in a way that I see things that I try and convey, and I'm just trying to teach right now. But yeah, if you look at this, it's very minimalist. The thing that you go to first is not the clients, but the crucifix right there. And then you can kind of put a story together. These people are almost looking right at it, and they're like holding hands there. They're right next to each other, and they're, basically committing a new life to their, based on their religious beliefs, to God. And I just really, really like this image. So the minimalism and focusing and getting everything out of the way that you're not focused on, or you don't want the viewer to focus on, is a really, really important tip, I feel like. So this one right here was a bride. She was getting ready. And this is a technique that I use a lot, guys. So when there's really, really harsh light, this isn't Photoshop right here. When there's harsh light, I'll use that harsh light to separate the background from the light. So it's like a white and black thing here. So obviously it's like really bright outside. There wasn't a cloud in the sky. There's a ton of light coming through the windows. So what I did is I put it right next to it, and then on our left side, her right side, is all the room that was there. So all I have to do is just darken down my, speed up my shutter speed, just darken down my exposure a lot, and then everything in the background just fades away, because you still have this high key right here with the lights coming through, but then you also have all the darkness in the background, and it just shows her. You're just focused on her and what's going on. It's one subject. It's not any distractions. When you look at the photo, there's nothing else to take your eye off of exactly what you want the viewer to see right here. So I use that a lot. When there's harsh light, I play with it. Like, I darken things down to get rid of any distractions in the background. Sometimes I'll have to clone a few things out, or just, bump up the shadows. But in general, my photo is almost set just by getting some harsh light and then really darkening my exposure, so that light just almost highlights everything that I want the viewer to see, and everything else drops away. This one right here, same thing. And this is also a good example, guys. This was a pose shot. So what was going on was, that's the groom handing the best man the ring. And what I saw them out of the corner of my eye, they didn't warn me that they were pulling out the rings, and I was scanning the room. I missed this. I kind of saw it out of the corner of my eye, and then I was like, hey, do that one more time. Let's recreate this. So I put them up against a window with really harsh light, blew everything out in the background so it's just them, and then I recreated it. And there's nothing wrong with recreating shots. I mean, like I've said in a million other videos, guys, it comes down to your imagination. And if you can imagine things, definitely set it up. It's not cheating or anything like that. If anything, it's more creative to see something in your mind first and then know you can execute. But this is a good example of getting rid of the backgrounds and cleaning everything up so it's just focused on what you want the viewer to see. This one right here, same thing. I had the best man. There was really harsh light, and I had him stand in a doorway where there was just obviously bunch of shadows, really, really dark, and the sun was like at high noon. And I had him just put the ring in his hand and stick it out in the sun. That's it. and everything else drops away. I mean, it's so easy, really, when you have people are scared of shooting in like harsh sunlight. I like it because you can really play with everything by just darkening down your exposure and then letting that light just fall on the things that you want the viewer to see. So that was another example of just me seeing it in my head first, knowing that I had harsh light, and knowing I wanted to drop everything out so the person's eye that was viewing it goes right to the thing I want to show them. This one right here, actually Sarah took, which is like one of my favorites all year. I absolutely love this photo. She was shooting, and I was actually on the bride's going in for the first look right here. I'm on the inside with the groom, and Sarah knew. I mean, same thing. We've discussed this tactic before. When you have really harsh light, use that light to just direct your eye and get rid of everything else that you didn't want them to see. If she hadn't really darkened this out right here, you could see all this stuff in the background, like, you know, where it's dark right here with these string lights. There's so much stuff. There's a bunch of people in there, and there's just a bunch of different things. But by her just taking that harsh light and using it forward to darken out everything else, darken down her exposure, it just leaves her walking through that door, and then that's all you see, her walking into something else. With the dress, I mean, it's just an amazing shot. I was so proud of Sarah when she got that. This one right here, another example of harsh light. So this is a first look, and I was standing right next to him. In the background, I cleaned it out as much as I could, but as you can see, there's like branches and stuff. There's a bunch of trees, a bunch of buildings in the back. It just didn't look that great, but I knew if I had placed them in the right light, where it was harsh, and I didn't put them under shade or anything like that, I could, just like I've been saying, darken down my exposure. I have some really harsh light hitting them, but it's okay now because I've really just increased my shutter speed, and it just shows just them. There's nothing else distracting in the backgrounds. That's what it is, guys. It's focusing on, and this is just a technique. I mean, obviously I do other things where there's, you know, I incorporate multiple elements in the frame, but just this technique of just showing one person or one thing that you want them to look at. It's isolating and just showing them one thing so the viewer doesn't get confused. And as soon as they know it, or as soon as they see it, they know what they're looking at, or their eye gets drawn in and it grips them. And they don't have to figure out too much. This one right here, another example of using light. This was indoors. It was just crappy weather out, and Sarah and I were looking for some stuff that we could do inside. Now, this room was the bridal suite at the hotel, or the venue, and there was so much stuff around, guys. It was like chairs and crap and drinks and coffee tables and just a nasty room with like a bunch of stuff to take photos in. So I'm like, what am I going to do here? So all we did is we set up 2 flashes, one camera right and one camera left, put grids on them, and just concentrated the light right on them in kind of a clamshell type lighting pattern. Just one right to their right and one right to their left. And that's it. You know, and then we just darkened everything down and just made sure that light was concentrated. That's one of the best things about the MagMod kit, is you can make sure that you're like tailoring your light exactly where you want it. It doesn't spill out everywhere. So this was easy. You know, we just told them basically, hey, we're going to hit you guys with some flashes right here, and I want you to take your dress and kind of throw it up in the air and just keep your arm up as you throw it. And that's what she did. It wasn't her, I mean, it looks like she's kind of floating through the air, but it wasn't. She was just standing there, but she just threw her dress up in the air. We fired the flashes. Everything else was darkened, and this was basically almost straight out of camera. All I had to do was put some vignette on it and then just bump up the shadows, or bring down the shadows, and that was it. So this one right here is a different example. We didn't use really harsh light or anything, but it's just an example of cleaning up your backgrounds to get the point across. I like minimalism in my photos a lot of times, guys. I like things not too confusing, and I like each frame to kind of be a caption from a story that you can just grab, and it'll make your mind think about what was going on there. So I just laid on the ground. I shot up under him. I had I think I had a 24 on, and yeah, just laid on the ground. I told him, hey, throw your bouquets up in the air and keep your arms in the frame. And so it just shows that it's minimalist. There's nothing really going on to distract you, and it just keeps you in the frame, guys. Clean up your backgrounds. I will say that a billion times. Your backgrounds, when you're doing this type of work, when you want to get a point across, And you want to make sure that your backgrounds are as simple or as meaningful as possible. Always pay attention to them. This one right here is just, that's actually Sarah right here. We're playing around with some lights. I like to use one light portraits a lot. And same deal here. I just use one light. This was actually this is a speed light with a grid on it, and I just sprayed some atmosphere spray in the air. Same thing. I darkened down everything. We were in a room with a bunch of crap in it. I just had her kind of sit on a chair and look down, and then put her in the corner and put some atmosphere spray in the air and had a light coming from above. That's it. And you can't really, it's just very minimalist. It takes your eye and it puts you right to the subject and you don't have to think about anything else. You're looking at just the thing that I want to show you. And that's what I'm trying to say, guys, is like, cleaning up those areas of distraction and making sure you're paying attention to your background as much as your subject is super important. This one right here, minimalist, one light setup. I just had them stand there. What you can't see is Sarah's behind the groom right here holding that our mag light, our flashlight. And it's just one beam of light hitting her. And he's just standing there, obviously. Nothing crazy. Very simple. Clean background. One light. Just showing what you want to show. Very, very minimalist, guys. Clean everything up as much as possible. This one, I think I've shown this as an example in another video, but I just wanted to point out it again because these are the types of things you can do with one light. Just one speed light. Sarah's standing behind them. Kind of up high. She was standing on like a fence. We were outside. And one speed light with a grid just right over, straight above their head, just shining down. And I told them, hey, I told the groom, I'd like grab her under the chin and bring her in. And I said, close your eyes, both of you guys, and just feel that moment. Pretend we're not here and just, you guys are just married and just feel the moment and bring her in as slow as possible. And as he was bringing her chin in, I fired like 8 shots. Because it was very slow and I just wanted to make sure that I got the right one. That's it. You can't really see the background. One light, 1 or 2 subjects, one scenario, cropped in. Exactly what you want them to look at is what's being presented. This one's kind of a different scenario, but I just wanted to show you guys an example of not blowing everything out or getting rid of the background, but it's just the background really doesn't have anything to do with the people or what's going on. Just pay attention. There's nothing distracting here. They're on the road, and this couple was like super fun. Like, that's another thing, guys. When you're photographing people, in order to get the best out of them, you really want to make sure that you're connecting with their personalities. You're paying attention to those nuances of the things that make them who they are. So these ones, they were just constantly joking. They were so fun to work with. We love this couple. And they just were so fun. So, this was actually Sarah's idea. I got the shop at Sarah's idea. She was like, we had done portraits. They were walking away and they were just joking and laughing. And Sarah's like, hey, you guys jump up in the air. And they started going. And I just started shooting behind them. But I made sure that there was nothing distracting in the back. There was no light poles shooting out of their heads. This is an active thought of mine. If there was something right in front of them there, I would have angled myself differently to get that stuff out so they're just in a place where if a viewer looks at it, they're not distracted by the bushes or the trees or anything else. They're looking exactly where you want them to go, or where I want them to go. And this one too is one of my favorites. This is my son. I shot him in his gym. And the reason why I love this photo and I'm presenting it, it's not a wedding photo, but it's just a good example of one subject, one thing you want your people to look at, and cleaning up so there's not a lot of distraction going on. This one is a kind of a different case because you do have the ring here, and the cracks in the walls and the old boxing gym here, kind of showing the viewer where he is and creating some depth of the space. But there's nothing really distracting. It's a little bit, the first thing you see when you look at it is my son. You look at him, you're looking at his expression and the way his arms are over the ropes. And then your eyes maybe drift to the back and then look at the scenario and the atmosphere. But it's one scenario you're pointing to. And that's the thing. If you can make sure that you're looking at your backgrounds first and then placing your subjects where you want them to go within those predetermined background spots, your photos will come out so much better, cleaner, and people will be able to connect with them better. Hopefully this was helpful to you guys. I really, I talked a lot, but I want to make sure that I'm really conveying that message to pay attention to the backgrounds, because this will definitely step up your photos and make them a lot better. Let me know if this was helpful, guys. I really hope it was. And thank you for watching. Until the next video, my friends.